We are Jaden, Toby, Victor, and Elvis, and our presentation is about our survey based on social media.
So for our survey, we asked students of Harrison High what their most used form of social media was, which could choose from Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, or any other social media platform. The question we asked was how many hours they spent on social media per day. The reason why we asked this question was that we wanted to know what most people were using to pass time and browse social media during this pandemic. As we predicted, so this is what the information we got. On the right, it's our chart. On the left, it's a frequency table of everything. As we predicted, since you're mostly asking teenagers from the high school, see that TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat were the most frequent choice. Obviously, if we were going to ask older generations the exact same question, Facebook might be more frequent as opposed to the aforementioned. Although this isn't shown in the graph, apparently one person had voted for none and another had voted for YouTube. It's interesting that one person out of 416 people don't use social media at all. So Twitter and Facebook appearing below other was unexpected. I thought that other would be the least frequent from this list, but I was proven wrong.
In the histogram on the right, we can see how many hours people spend on social media per day. A majority of the people spent around 1.75 to 3.5 hours a day on social media. In the histogram, we can see how it skews to the right as the hours get larger. On the left of the slide, we see the summary statistics. I'm kind of surprised by these numbers. I thought they'd be much higher since we were in quarantine. I thought we'd be spending 6 hours a day or something on this stuff.
As you can tell from our survey and the survey of the University of Wisconsin-Madison, the social media apps of Instagram and Snapchat were both some of the most popular social media apps. One other similarity is that Twitter and Facebook, for both surveys, are not the favorite among teenagers and university students. One important thing to note is that the survey that the University of Wisconsin Madison made was from November 21st, 2018. This is important because back then TikTok wasn't really popular, and that's why the university's survey doesn't have a category for TikTok. The main difference for both graphs is that of course TikTok is really popular now, so that's why it's the highest bar for our survey. Also, the university's survey doesn't have a category for other social media apps, which is significant as the college students would have to go for the next favorite social media app if their favorite wasn't there. One last thing to note is that only one person in our survey said that they don't use social media, while in the university survey, a little over 12% of people said that they didn't use social media. This makes me believe that using social media is more common in teenagers than in college students.
Moving on to question two, we can now compare how much time individuals have spent on social media per day. The first key difference between the two surveys, our survey being on the left and the survey from Industry Report on the right, is that our graph displays time in intervals of an hour and 45 minutes, while the Industry Report covers daily time people spent, the average daily time spent from the years 2012 to 2019. Our survey is a collection of the daily time spent on social media in the year 2020. One of the clear similarities when comparing the data is noticing how from 2012 to 2019, the daily time spent on social media increased with every year, but always remained below 2 hours. When viewing our data, however, it shows that the average time spent on social media is 3 hours and 30 minutes, with multiple outliers that even suggest times longer than 10 hours. It still follows the same trend continuing after 2019, but the times themselves technically skyrocketed way more in 2020. I want to mention about the sudden jump in daily usage within the year could be the result from staying in quarantine throughout the majority of 2020, as the students that were surveyed may be using their daily time from their quarantine experience. In conclusion, final notes on the survey we would have liked to address, but we're unable to because of lack of data or other restrictions are as follows. We would have liked to narrow down the time spent on each of the listed social medias that were surveyed in the first question to get a more detailed comparison of how long individuals spent on social media, whether they used it, whether they used said platform the most or not. And we would have wanted to find out whether COVID-19 may have affected any of the results for daily usage or even most used social media due to the amount of time spent in quarantine with nothing else to do. And that concludes our presentation.